If you're a fan of mixed martial arts, you're going to want to pay attention to this episode. I've got Smilin Sam Alvey joining the podcast today to share some of his insights about his career, as well as what he's got going as a coach. He has a Skool Community that I'm going to put the link here in the description. And before we get any further in this podcast, please go check it out. If you are interested in learning from a professional fighter how to become a better striker, how to become a better fighter, that's where you want to be. It's a free community, and he is having a more intimate setting inside of the Skool Community. So go click that link where you can learn from Sam in his Skool Community. Sam is a two-time heavyweight karate combat champion, a UFC veteran, and he is an amazing individual sharing his story today on the podcast. This is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time! Woo!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome out to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. My name is Shane Larson, host of the show. Super excited for today's interview. I'm bringing on a guest that I've been following in his fighting career for quite some time. This is the first time he's met me, but it's kind of interesting just, following people like this and then finally getting to have them on my platform and hearing the story. So as you guys heard in the intro, I mean, the guy, UFC veteran, two-time heavyweight karate combat champ. I mean, the dude is a phenomenal fighter, great human being, and his name's Smilin Sam Alvey. Sam, thanks for joining the show, man.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I wanted to pick your brain, Sam. Like, I went through your bio a long time ago, just kind of like checking out who you were. I remember just watching your fighting career in the UFC and kind of seeing like, where did he come from? And like, what's his background? And I would love for you to be able to dissect that a little bit before you became a professional fighter and got into the fighting world and all that. What was your sports background growing up?
I was a band nerd. I played trumpet for like 21 years. That's really about the extent of anything I was good at athletically. I thought I was a rough and tumble kid. Now, I wrestled a little bit. Like, I was a good B-team wrestler. I was just a throwing dummy for the guys that knew what they were doing. But I was really just a band nerd. You know what it was? I wanted to play football, but my freshman year of high school, I got West Nile virus. I was the one American that got West Nile virus. Took me out for the season, almost took me out for good. And I just said, all right, I'm going to do band. And so I did band.
You got West Nile? You were one of those?
I was like the American, like the guy that got it. That was me.
Holy cow, man. That's crazy. Now, this is going to sound weird, Sam, but I would love for the listeners who are out there to connect the dots between, like, I guess in band, you might not feel like there's any parallels or anything, but I think there might be. I would like to ask you, did you find any parallels between, reading music and playing in the band that you do as like a professional athlete?
If I stretch it a little bit, maybe I could say yes. Now, the smarter you are, the more intelligent of a person you are, the better a fighter you're going to be. A lot of people think it's dumb fighters. No, it really is. And across the board, the more intelligent you become, the better an athlete, the better a fighter you are. I do think I had a level of intelligence that helped me play my trumpet. I was pretty good. Not to say I was brilliant or anything, but I do think it helped.
Yeah, I mean, reading music from somebody like myself who can't do it, I actually have a huge respect for those who can. I think reading music's its own skill set in and of itself. So a lot of people who are just tuning into this, maybe they haven't followed your career. They might be wondering, which is why I wanted to ask you, how did you then get into professional fighting from not really having a major sports background? You said you were a band nerd, you were doing the thing there, but how did you become a professional fighter?
Yeah, honestly, some guy asked me, hey, you want to fight? And I said, yeah, okay. that was it. I didn't start training until I was probably 3-0 as a professional. My amateur career lasted about 4 months. I was 6-1. My first fight, I didn't know the rules to. I was one of those guys that walked out with century gloves and pockets on my shorts. Dropped him, like boom, splattered his nose. He hit the ground. It was awesome. I didn't know the rules. I thought I won. Not the rules in MMA. MMA, you can get back up, and he got back up. Round 2, he took me down and didn't give me a second shot. So I lost my first one. And then from there, I fought again, knocked the guy out in 12 seconds, fought again, went over in Russia and fought, came back, had 3 fights in one night, won $1,000 with that. said, "Whoa, that's kind of cool." And said, "Yeah, now you're pro." I said, "Okay, I'm pro now," and I became a professional athlete without ever stepping a day in the gym.
Wow, that's actually kind of crazy. Now, you are known as like a striking professional, like you're a coach. You're now doing that, and you're very good at your striking. As a former boxer myself, I love striking. I love the art of jiu-jitsu. I love the art of wrestling. I think that's all really cool. But striking is an art that I absolutely love. I'd like to pick your brain on that a little bit. What got you into striking? I think we have some similarities there. I'll say this. I started striking in Kempo karate when I was like, 8 years old. And I
Mhm.
found a love for striking with my fist. I just love striking. What got you into the striking world of things?
Well, you can't teach yourself jujitsu. And when I started fighting, like YouTube was a thing, but just barely. Like nobody knew anything about it. Um, and so you can't teach yourself jujitsu. So your options are don't get taken down, and then jujitsu is not an option. And then you're left standing, so you got to hit a guy. So it was really I just sparred a lot. It was like okay, I found enough. Once I started training, I actually started my own gym, and I just switched to full time. So all right, today we're sparring. Today we're sparring. Today we're sparring. We just sparred a lot. We did a lot of get up from the bottom kind of stuff. We would put ourselves in bad positions and we have to get up from our teammates. But I was the head coach, so I was kind of making it all up. And it just worked out. Turns out I hit pretty hard, so there's a God-given talent for me. But it was not intended. I didn't know I had any of these skills until I started doing it.
Wow, that's so crazy, man. Sam, I've watched it. I would love to pick your brain from someone who's fought in the UFC, like the top of the mixed martial arts world, so to speak. Pressures of fighting. I always talk about this with athletes. When the spotlight's on, it's very difficult sometimes for some athletes to actually perform under the spotlight. They can train all they want. They're the practice All-Americans. And then when it comes time for them to execute, it seems like some of them shell up, because it's harder to execute when everything's going down. For you being in the UFC at the time, like talk to me about that and how you went about making sure that you could execute to the best of your ability when the spotlight was on in the top part of the sport.
Yeah, by the time I got into the UFC, I had a lot of fights. I want to say I was 24-4. So I had just about 30 fights by the time the UFC ever touched me. I had just done it. I knew what I was good at. I knew what I was able to do, and I know I've beaten some good guys. And so by the time I got to the UFC, the pressure was just off. I was just something I do. It was just another day of work. It was like a realtor waking up to go sell a house. They're not necessarily nervous. They're aware of what they have to do. And that's kind of been the case for me. I went from band nerd to fighting, and there's no oh, what if I lose phase. It was just, I'm going to win. It was always in my head. Even in, I finished UFC on the terrible streak. Before every fight, I was going to win. There was no doubt that I was going to end my streak then. I was going to come out victorious. I just never doubted it. So backstage, I just I had a good time. I never worried about well, what if I lose? What if this happens? What if that? It was like, I'm just going to go out. I'm going to win.
That's so funny, man. You always had the right mentality. Do you mind sharing maybe one of your favorite experiences in the UFC? That is like one of your favorite fights, whether it was a win or a loss, and the reason that
Yeah.
it was your favorite?
So my best fight was probably Da Un Young, and it was a draw, which was garbage. If you want, it was probably my best fight that I've ever done. I don't know if I'll ever be able to replicate as good a performance as that was. And it was just a good fight. But my favorite fight was against Nate Marquardt. I fought in Colorado at elevation, which I was perfectly fine. I actually, for most of my UFC career, I slept in an altitude tent. I slept at about 9,000 feet. So by the time I got to Colorado, I was fine. Um, but yeah, Nate Marquardt, he was one of my coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. So I'm one of the few fighters in the history of the world that got to fight their coach. And then I won too. And it was just such a thrill being able to compete against somebody of such a high level. Nate the Great, King of Pancrase. And I got the win over him. And I was just thrilled with myself.
It's very rare that you get to fight someone that's coached you. That's kind of odd, huh? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
At this point, I've got over 80 fights. I've done just about everything. And most people haven't. Most people have never had the chance to fight their own coach or do half the stuff I've done. And it's just something on my bucket list I made happen.
I think that's so cool. One of the things I've always enjoyed about like following your career, especially, once I found you on social media too, like you're very active on social media. You chat with your fans, you chat with everybody. You're just kind of real, it's just live your life. You got your chickens, you got your everything like that. It's pretty cool. And it's something that I admire. one of the things that I've always enjoyed is like, you just like to fight. Like you'll spar, you'll talk to people. Like it's just normal. So talk to me about this. You've mentioned other fighters such as Sean Strickland and other fighters that you've been around. Who is like one of your favorite training partners that you've had? And, how do they help you level up your game?
Well, I've got a list of guys like Dan Henderson. He's been my head coach for most of my career, my professional career, and love sparring with him. He's just an incredible person and so talented. So there's Dan Henderson, of course. Jared Bandera, he's wonderful. He and I work together a lot. Jesse Taylor is the reason my takedown defense is as good as it is. But then there's Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis. Oh, and can't forget Tom Galicchio. Tom Galicchio is a little bigger than, but for like the first bunch of fights in the UFC, he was my training partner. He was what I had, and I couldn't have asked for a better one. He is the reason I got into the UFC. It was a thrill to have him there. As I got larger, and he actually went down to 55, I started working a lot more with Sean Strickland and Chris Curtis. And well, the two dudes are just incredible. Curtis is more technical than I could wish to ever be, and Sean Strickland is almost as tough as I am.
That's so cool, man. What a great group of guys. Like iron sharpens iron, huh? I guess that's super cool. Sam, I want to ask you this question too. I remember it might have been your last UFC fight. It might have been before that, but you had mentioned that I think you got your jaw broken. I can't remember if that's what happened, but you had mentioned that was it. I want to know, like, from an injury standpoint, is that the worst injury that you've sustained as a fighter, or did you sustain any other ones? And how did you come back from those?
So I've broken my jaw twice. Once was from practice. Sean Strickland kicked me in the face, and it was a nothing kick. It was just a little whoop. It just caught me, and it's like, well, damn. I waved him off, and he said, "What, are you all right?" He said, "Ugh." Went to the bathroom, and I spit the blood out, took my mouth guard out. My bottom teeth were split wide open.
Oh.
It's like, I go, Brett, we got to go to the doctor. And yeah, I was wired shut for 6 weeks, and that was the hardest part of that was the hardest point in my career. It was, I considered it's like, I never want this to happen again. I'm going to quit fighting. I'm going to become a garbage man or an accountant or something. The second time I broke my jaw was in my last UFC fight, and to this day, I've never been beat up except for my last UFC fight. The dude beat the brakes off me, and there was just no to it. He came at me, hit me first. His first daggone punch broke my jaw. Like, I just felt this. Like, oh. I was playing catch up for the next 2 minutes, and then the ref stopped it. I think it was Herb. That one though, it didn't displace; it just broke, and so they didn't need to wire anything shut. And I begged the doctor not to wire me shut. I said, "Listen, if I can get away with talking, just let it be. I promise not to eat anything. I promise not to do anything." He said, "Well, listen, if you don't, do you?" So I promise. And so he didn't. He didn't wire me shut, and I got a little lucky with that one.
Dang, dude, that's brutal. But I mean, that's part of the game. I mean, if you've been fighting for that many years and that many fights and that many sparring sessions, and to only have two, I guess the numbers are kind of in your favor, but that still sucks. You know what I mean? Sam, when I as a fight fan myself, see, I follow a lot of the different. I follow boxing. I follow MMA. I love karate combat. I love bare knuckle. I think it's all just interesting, different forms of fighting, promotions, and so forth. But when karate combat came out, and I saw that you were actually going to start competing in that, I was always interested. You did like a behind the scenes of one of them too. I think it might have either been on your Instagram or your YouTube. I can't remember, but you did a more of a behind the scenes deal. And I've always been interested in that promotion because, Boss Root, like just seeing what those guys are doing to put on that production. It's a little smaller scale, obviously, but I would like to know it from your perspective. Obviously, heavyweight champ. You won the belt. You've had a couple of fights there. What is the promotion like for karate combat as compared to that of the UFC? Just different rules and so forth. Do you enjoy it? What are some of the intricacies of that specific promotion?
Well, nothing compares to the UFC. The UFC just has the budget and the process down. Like, they can afford to waste money on you. Karate Combat is trying not to waste money on you, but they're willing to. And that's a big deal. I mean, like, you don't get that in non-UFC events. And the Karate Combat has the social media side of things down. Like, they know what they're doing. They know how to sell the fight. They know how to sell the promotion. And they're working on building the characters. They've got me. They're throwing some other guy, Raymond Daniels. He's in there. They've got a couple of guys that they're really trying to push to make a name for Karate Combat. And I just love it. I mean, the fight nights are great. They're faster paced than any UFC fight night because there's no boring wrestling or jiu-jitsu, which I love them both, but it's the boring part of any fight. And Karate Combat, it has found a way to make fighting more entertaining, to be a faster paced, and I've really enjoyed it. And the way they take care of me is wonderful as well.
That's super cool. What's it like fighting in the pit as compared to maybe an octagon?
So much better. It is so much better. I've spent my career with my back foot on the cage, scared of getting taken down. The pit, I can't do that. The pit, if my back foot's there, I'm going to lose. I have to push forward. It's changed the way I fight, and I love it.
That's super cool. So are you still going to be, fighting and defending your belt?
Oh, yeah. I hope to fight another 30 fights with Karate Combat. I hope to be the longest reigning champion in their promotion. Go in there and just dominate everyone. That is the goal.
Heck yeah. Now, I do want to ask you one question on that, too. Just 2 fights ago, as you were fighting for the belt, it was a DQ on your opponent's side. You got to have the rematch against him with the headbutt that was accidental. I just always meant to, I know I watched, some of the interviews you've done. Do you remember what was going on at that moment when you got clipped with the headbutt by chance? Or did that all rock you? Like, when you watched the replay, do you remember it happening, or were you out?
So 20 minutes before that happened, I broke my foot warming up. I was
That's
backstage.
right. You were limping,
Yes.
huh? Yeah.
And I was trying to hide it, and I didn't hide it at all. Like, before I got into the pit, people saw, oh, there's something wrong with this foot. It's like, oh, damn it. And so I got in there, and I just couldn't move. And so finally, we got into a little bit of a trade after chasing him a few times. And that head hit me. And once that hit me, like, I wasn't out, but I might as well have been. Like, maybe if I was out, I would have woke up well rested. I was just out, as in I couldn't have told you what happened. Eventually, they're raising my hand again and say, "Oh, okay, what the hell happened?"
Wow.
President Austin came down and said, "Sam, we watched it. There was he headbutted you like bad, like it took you out." I said, "Oh, okay, well, good." I didn't lose my belt. And then I watched it back, and it was the best head movement I have ever had. I slipped 3 punches just to have a face take me out. So that was rough.
It's brutal, man. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you fight some more. Sam, one of the things I've always admired about you, as well as your faith, I would like to ask you, how does your faith play a role, in your career as a fighter, as well as a dad, as well as it's like all of the aspects of your life? How does your faith play a role in that?
Oh, I said I'm not scared of losing. I'm not scared of losing because whatever happens is God's plan. He is in my corner as much as my wife is, man, more than my wife is. Don't tell her I said that, but no, he is. Whatever happens, I lost those fights, but in losing those fights in the UFC to finish my career, I became one of the most recognizable fighters in the world. So I may not have won, but now people remember me for the good and the bad, but they remember me. I got into Karate Combat and fighting the highest level of competition there, and I'm winning. And now more people, because of the losing streak, are watching me win. And it's whatever happens, I have full faith it is his plan, and I'm just trying to highlight his name as best I can.
Oh, I love that, man. I freaking love it. So just 2 more questions I had for you, Sam, and then I can let you go, get back to your evening. Your nickname is Smilin Sam Alvey. And for people like me who've been following you, we know you smile all the time. Tell us why you're always smiling. Win or lose, you're always smiling, and you always seem to have, and it might play a role in what you just kind of said regarding your faith, but I'm sure there's some other stuff to it too. Do you mind kind of sharing with us why you have that nickname?
Yeah, you should Google my wife. And then you'll see why I'm smiling the whole time.
Well, that's fair then. All right. So we'll leave it at that.
I got a good one.
I love it, man. So last question for you, Sam, then. What is the biggest life lesson that fighting has taught you?
If the internet's a cruel place and a good place, you just gotta recognize the good. Like, everyone talks about how bad the internet is, but 10-1 people are positive. You just focus on the negative. And if you can not focus on the negative, the internet is it's a blessing. Like, you really can be rewarded by the people from all over the world.
And that's a good lesson. I hope everybody who just listened to that, the young aspiring athletes as well, rewind that specific piece right there and take note of that.
There will always be more good than bad. There will always be, but you will focus on the bad for some reason. It's human nature to focus on the bad things people say. There'll be 100. We love you, Sam. Get them next time. But then there'll be that one. Sam, you're the worst ever. No, you're rotten, wherever. And your brain just focuses on that one negative comment. And the life lesson is don't focus on the positive. Surround yourself with the positive. Ignore if it's not good. Ignore it. Why bother? Focusing on such negativity.
No, I love that, man. It's super cool. I love the positivity. I love the outlook on life. I love your faith in the Lord. I love just like learning from you, and I'm just grateful to have you on my platform, Sam. So thank you so much for joining the show and being willing to share your story, sir.
Yeah, you're very welcome. But hey, I just launched like 3 days ago. It's my Skool program, Skool. And it's completely free. I'm trying to train people from around the world, athletes that want to perform at their highest level, athletes that want to be part of the UFC, that want to be part of Karate Combat, Bellator, PFL, people that want to do it, but might not have everything they're looking for. I'm trying to fulfill their everything. So follow me on Skool, SKO. The link is in my bio on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all that. Just follow me there, and I would love to work with you.
I'm going to put that link in the description. I wanted to ask you, like where we were going to find you and if it was still open to the public, because that is such a public. Okay, good. Because I think that anybody, myself included, I'm actually part of the Skool community now on there.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I just signed up yesterday, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm going to be following what you're doing. I just love what you're teaching. So for all those who are out there, I have a lot of guys here that want to fight. They want to learn how to strike. They want to learn. This is the guy to follow. This is why I wanted to bring you on the show. Share who you are so that people can have some understanding of like, oh yeah, we should probably be following somebody who knows what they're freaking doing. You know what I mean? So
it'll be a more intimate setting too. Like on Instagram, I've got 300,000 followers and I'm getting DMs all the time, and I try and help everyone I can, but it's hard. My Skool program is going to be much smaller. I'm keeping it like right now I'm at 200. I've been open 3 days. I'm at 200 people. It's fantastic. I've been talking with everyone all day long. I'm just messaging back and forth. And today I did an hour, not a seminar, but a chat with everyone that's in there. And I'm going to do a lot more of that. So I really appreciate everyone that's in there. And I'm going to do everything I can to give back to them. And my name here on your, it's Smilin Striking. That's what I am on the Skool platform, Smile and Striking.
Smilin Striking. I'm going to put that here all in the description as well, just to make sure that we have that. Everyone can see it. Smilin Striking. I'll put the link here. They can follow you in the Skool community. Hey, shout out to Alex Hermosi, who is the owner of Skool. Good friend of mine from the old ClickFunnels days when I worked over there. So good times, cool. Man. So we'll make sure that
I say hi if you still talk to him.
Oh, for sure, man. I'll leave a message over there. He's a good dude. Sam, I appreciate you, man. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience today?
No, you know what? Stay blessed, everyone. I hope to help you if I can. And if I can't, I am sure there's something I can do someday.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you, brother. And for all those who are listening, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Follow Sam over in the Skool community. And we'll be coming to you guys next week with another interview. Take care.
Hey, thank you, my friend.
Thanks. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.